Brian Smith, publisher of Inside the Knights on Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. And I want to bring you a little bit of information about what's going on around the state of Florida with the college football programs. This is going to be about 4 specific programs: Florida State, Florida, Miami, and UCF. I believe those 4 are definitely the top of the board. There are obviously others, but these are the 4 that really matter the most. And here's how it's going to work. I'm going to talk about where the classes are, some of their needs, and maybe a player or 2 from each class as it relates to trends. So let's get started with the Noles. Florida State has a very good class so far. Half of it is from in-state, and that's something I really want to touch upon. Florida State, I wasn't so sure about their staff last year as it related to recruiting inside the state of Florida. They have picked it up. They're also recruiting the Dallas area. They're recruiting Memphis. They're recruiting Memphis all the way to really Atlanta. They're doing a good job of really broadening their horizons, but still getting enough kids in state. The thing that they needed was size. Florida State's offensive and defensive lines needed some more size. Now they're getting that from all over. They just got a big time player out of the state of Texas, and it's Duncanville. It's one of the best programs in the state of Texas. So that shows me that programs at the high school level respect what Florida State's doing. So that's good for the Noles. The key here with them is still Travis Hunter, though. He's arguably the best player in the country. He's a player out of the state of Georgia that wants to play corner, but I think, and most people think, he's the best player in the country when he plays wide receiver. We'll see what he does for Florida State, but he'll probably play a little bit of both ways. He's one of the most dynamic kids that I've ever seen, and he's really fun to watch. Florida is a unique situation. The Gators have Nick Evers at quarterback, who I absolutely think is fantastic. That would be 3 straight years for the Gators getting a really good football player at the quarterback position. And as we all know, quarterback dictates a lot of wins and losses. So this is something that Dan Mullen and his staff have in their hip pocket. You can develop kids. Somebody's probably going to leave at some point. Could be any one of the 3, but Evers coming in pushes the pile a little more. Competition, competition, competition. That's what it's about in the Southeastern Conference. Doesn't matter if it's in the East or the West. And that's something that Florida's going to have. The key for Florida, though, is development. They have a lot of speed in this class, but they also have kids that aren't quite there from a refinement standpoint. Now, this is something Dan Mullen's been very good at on offense. Defensively, they have kids that have developed some too, but not quite like they have on offense. They were very disappointing defensively last year. So I'm curious. They have a big-time cornerback coming out of Texas that I like. Can he play early? Possibly. Has the size, 6'1", 6'2". And they also have the ability to look at their group of players across the board, and it's balanced. That's important. The one little caveat here, and I really hope it works out, Terence Gibbs, who is out of Orlando, he plays at Winter Park High School, had a really bad knee injury about a year ago. He has not recovered just yet. Coach Mullen has already told him, you've got a scholarship here. He has committed. If it doesn't work out, he's still going to be able to go to Florida and be on scholarship. So that's a really cool thing for him. And this kid is tremendous. It's really too bad he hurt his knee, but it was a bad injury, and hopefully, again, he's able to play at some point. But if he can, that really changes the recruiting class, because even as a freshman in high school, if you'd have really said, hey, Brian, could you take this kid now? It would have been yes. He was physically ready. Now, the injury, you just don't know. Moving on to Miami, this is probably the strangest recruiting class in the country based on where the Hurricanes are located and which players they actually have in their class. They have 9 commitments. It's a good class. A few developmental players. They got an offensive lineman out of Georgia, has tremendous upside, but isn't rated as high as some other kids. And they've got Fagans out of Alabama that the Crimson Tide wanted. They've gotten Rogers out of Mississippi, who numerous programs wanted, LSU, Notre Dame, etc. They've done a good job at DB, but of course they do have a Hall of Famer helping to coach their secondary. This is where it gets strange. The greater Miami area is unquestionably the best in terms of true volume for Division I prospects. And I'm talking about all the way from the South Dade area, which is the county that Miami is in, all the way to Palm Beach. There's 3 counties there. It's just very populated. Miami has this many commitments, 0 from that area, and only 2 from the state of Florida. I'm guessing that there's some angst somewhere along the lines with high school coaches or something, because I've never seen that in my lifetime with Miami. They've always done very well in the local area. Now, you can still win by not doing that, but I doubt that's sustainable long term. If they can turn that around, they could have a big-time recruiting class. If they don't, it's probably going to be very difficult. There's still a lot of big fish on the board, regardless of in-state or out-of-state for Miami, but moving forward, this is something that Hurricane fans should be concerned about, and I just don't really know how to grade their class overall because of it. Miami does have some good speed in this class, and again, the DB class is really, really good, but they need a little more balance, and they also need to get some more kids from at home. Florida State is really doing well, and if they're going to keep up with their arch rival, they need to do better right there in their own backyard. There's no two ways about it. Finally, UCF. They just got their 8th player from in-state, just the opposite of Miami, but it's more of a developmental situation. They don't have as many high-end kids as the Hurricanes or even really Florida State or Florida, but the 2 or 3 they do have that are really highly ranked are going to play early, and the players within the class are very good fits for the scheme they're going to run, especially defensively, in my opinion. Now, let's talk a little bit about the recruiting dynamic with UCF. The Knights are going to try to recruit the state of Florida. Gus Malzahn made a mention of this during his opening press conference. We're going to recruit Florida like our hair is on fire. You're going to hear me talk about this over and over as long as they actually do it. 8 out of 11 kids from the Sunshine State. UCF can do a lot of different things that are going to make the program better, but the long-term trajectory of the program, especially with it being right in the middle of the state, is best served by recruiting Florida prep talent. Now, there isn't any one particular location they need to get, but it starts in Central Florida and it moves on. Grant Stevens is their most recent commitment, and he's from Nice High School in the greater Jacksonville area. He's a very talented tight end. If they can continue that trend and still find a way, and here's the key, to balance out high school recruiting with transfers, something that Miami does a pretty good job of as well, for certain, that's going to be the key. When do you pull the plug on any particular position or player and wait for the transfer? It's a balancing act. It's a Russian roulette, whatever you want to call it, but it's something that UCF did well this past year. They added 12 transfers. How many do they add this year? Joey Gatewood, his pending appeal is going to be coming to UCF from Kentucky. He's a quarterback. He was actually with Malzahn at Auburn. He's out of the greater Jacksonville area as well. He played at Bartram Trail on the south side of Jacksonville. Went to Auburn, transferred to Kentucky. Now he's going to transfer to UCF. That's the kind of situation. How many of those kind of scholarships you're going to have at the end of the year? Now, some kids are just going to go through the season and change their mind on where they want to be, as opposed to like Gatewood now. If UCF can find the balance, their class can be a lot better than what the rankings are going to show, because as I'm going to talk about constantly, recruiting rankings are based on high school players. Schools like Miami and UCF, for instance, that take a lot of transfers, don't get the same recruiting respect in the rankings. And that's something that I'm not going to do. I'm going to try and delve into it a little bit more when I do my rankings. That's not fair to Miami, UCF, or any other program that does this. Even if you get 3 transfers, if that's an impact player, maybe 2, maybe 3, it changes your roster. It changes wins and losses. And at the end of the day, that's what recruiting should be about. So just something to think about. The recruiting in this state is very unusual right now. You've got programs that are really trying to concentrate in-state like UCF, Florida State, pretty balanced, UF pretty balanced. Miami's not done very well at all in-state, but they've gotten really good players out of state. It's all over the map. As we move into the college football season, wins and losses will probably have something to do with which kids do or do not come out and commit. And I think a lot of the Miami area kids are waiting to see what the Hurricanes do when they play Alabama. They're probably going to get spanked, but most teams get spanked by Alabama. How does that impact them? And then subsequently, does it help UF, UCF, Florida State, out-of-state programs? The Miami area is something to watch. Brian Smith, publisher of Inside the Knights.